Mike DeCourcy's legendary scribe with the sporting news. You see him on Fox Sports with college basketball and on Big Ten Network. He's on the take for the Indiana Hoosiers. By the way, they got that kid today from Sam Houston. Did you see that? That kid scores 20 a game. That's not a bad snag.
He also shoots over 40% from three-point range, which is maybe even more important at this point because you know that shooting travels, Scott. The points are not going to stay the same more than likely. But you get a guy open, and he's going to make the shot if he's capable. And so that's the best news for the Hoosiers.
So let's talk about this mess in Tennessee that you wrote about with this quarterback. I am Ali Ava, who has, tried to demand all kinds of money. And then they just said, see you later. We're not interested. And it was funny when he demanded the money. I remember I was at the gym, I was shooting, getting up shots, and somebody brought it up to me. And I said to the guy, that guy's not even good anyway. I don't think he's a great quarterback at all. I think he's average, and he must be imagining things. Who's filling his head that he's worth all this money?
Well, he was a quarterback on a playoff team, so certainly he had success team-wise. Individually, is about the 55th passer, somewhere around there. Accuracy, not super strong. I think total offense was not elite. There were no categories in which he was top 25 that are significant, Scott. He certainly did win a lot of games in the SEC, but didn't win the league. And he was only a redshirt freshman. It was his first year out. So he certainly has promise. But you don't pay for promise. And he'd already been paid for promise in a sense. Every report says that he had signed for 4 years, $2 million a year. That's a pretty substantial payday. And if other quarterbacks subsequently were getting more, well, that's okay. You're in a great situation. You're making a lot of money. You're also in a situation whose last two quarterbacks both went to the NFL. Both are making multiple millions of dollars with the promise of more if they continue their careers. Scott, there's so much money in being an NFL quarterback, and I'm not even talking about being a good one. Right. A good one like Dak Prescott gets you a ton. A great one like Patrick Mahomes gets you lifetime security. And if you're just an average quarterback, a quarterback who can stay in the league and make a living, if you're Mason Rudolph, you can make $4 million a year. That kind of money, you don't mess with that. You don't say, I can make another million now. No, you say, how do I get to that? I'm making good money now. How do I get to that money that I can make in the NFL? And you certainly don't do it by taking a chance on anyone that'll take you now.
It is so unbelievable. You're right, Mike. Guys like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Joe Flacco just got a bunch of money. Kenny Pickett got a bunch of money. He never plays. He got a bunch of money in Pittsburgh, then got money in Philly. Now he's getting even more money in Cleveland. Famous Jameis just got a bunch of money. And I'm talking about, I have yet to not mention a hack. I'm like, all of them are hacks. Now, I'll give Joe Flacco a Super Bowl ring, fair enough. And Kenny Smallhands got a Super Bowl ring. Not that he deserved one, but he got one. I think that was because the Steelers gave up on him that he got that. He had nothing to do with the Eagles. But all you have to do, Mariota just got a bunch of money. When's the last time he even played in a game? They all make a fortune. But I got to tell you, Mike, it bothers me horrifically about, I got a real problem, as I've told you before, with these kids making money in college football and basketball. I think it's ruining the game. I really do.
It's not. Scott, the evidence is there. You saw last Monday night, a lot of those guys were making money, and the game was brilliant. It was a phenomenal contest.
It would have been brilliant if they weren't making money, Mike.
Well, it was, but it wasn't necessarily great for them. They didn't make the kind of money that they were worth. I don't think it's affected the game at all, to be honest with you. It has affected roster continuity, but it hasn't affected the game. The games are still outstanding. It hasn't affected the audience. The audience is still coming, and I don't mean just we see guys still graduating. I know there are players who are going to 3 and 4 schools that are impacting their educations. But the players that are transferring once, more often than not, are graduating on time if they don't have the ability to go to the NBA or NFL early. They're still graduating on time. So I don't think it's had a bad impact, but it does bring up the possibility of circumstances like these. And I think that Tennessee managed it really well. Now, here's the thing that I will say: I am not holding up Tennessee as the example until we get to the fall and see who their quarterback is going to be. Because if they go out and get a quarterback from some other school, State Tech or good old State U or whoever, if they go out and do that, then they're just the same as whoever picks up Nico. I think that we have to see in time how they handled this end of this situation, not just how they handled Nico on the way out.
Will the college playoff in football be about? I mean, it would seem to me it's going to be about money. Who spends the most money will be in that pack of 12, or when it goes to 14 or 16, it's going to be who's got the highest payrolls. Like Ohio State will be automatic.
I mean, some of that's sort of self-fulfilling, though, Scott. I mean, the schools that have traditionally been successful are the schools that have the 100,000-seat stadiums and the schools that have the most booster and donor interest. So it's self-fulfilling. It does. I don't necessarily think it changes the identity of the participants, but it has opened up the possibility for teams like SMU and for Indiana, programs that had not been successful in the past. SMU hasn't really been relevant since the Pony Express. They got into the playoff. Indiana never even had a Pony Express, Scott. They had you sitting in the stands watching 2 and 10.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. I'm from the Bob Knight school of, if you don't go to class, you're going to A, never play again. B, you're going to run stairs for 3 hours at Assembly Hall. No one ever missed class, and every 100% of them in 29 years graduated with a degree and amounted to something in life. I have to tell you, I believe in that. I want to know if when this, as you as look, I don't know if I can say you're a traditionalist, but you're as old school as me in terms of our age bracket covering sports. None of this bothered you at all when they started giving all these kids. Now, like, even some of these chicks, like, don't get me started with those Cavender twins are worth $1.5 million each. They both suck.
No, I think I don't have a problem with any of it because you only are granted the money you're worth. Now, sometimes you're granted less money than you're worth. That happens. But no one is giving you money, millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because it makes them feel good. They're doing it because you're of some value. Now, whether that is in the case of the Cavender twins, they are mostly compensated for their name, image, and likeness, and not necessarily their name, image, and likeness, the value to the brand. As Cooper Flag, Juju Watkins are commonly Cooper with Gatorade, AT&T, Juju Watkins with State Farm. Those circumstances are true name, image, and likeness deals, and they are compensated for that. But there are other athletes out there that are basically compensated for their value to their team. And we see that all the time. I think it may change if the House settlement, which you may have heard about, which is still in the process of being negotiated, and maybe not negotiated, but the fine points are trying to be corrected. It still hasn't been approved by the judge. She heard the last court hearing last Monday. We'll know soon what her thoughts are on whether or not it's going to go forward. But when it does, there will be something similar to a salary cap, and there won't be the kind of name, image, and likeness that is bothering you, where players are being paid for their value to the team. The only name, image, and likeness that will remain then will be the Cooper Flag, Juju Watkins style, doing commercials for big companies.
Donald Trump says no one has to listen to judges anymore. That just came across the wire.